Whether you use containers, vertical gardening, raised beds, in-ground, pots, whatever it is, you can grow herbs, you can grow food, anything to help offset your grocery bill and bring better nutrition into your body. I think these days, every little bit helps. And if you're using something like a cattle panel trellis to grow vertically, or tomato cages, or even poles to grow things that like to sprawl up instead of out, you're gonna be able to pack a whole lot into a small space just like I do. Good morning and happy Sunday, everybody. My name is Kelly. Welcome back to my channel where I focus on food, growing it, preparing it, and preserving it. And today I'm going to be doing a first week of June garden tour. Now, today is Sunday the 8th. This video is going to go up here just as soon as I am done shooting it. It's been a busy week in the garden and it has been a very hot week as well. So I'm going to bring you up to speed on how everything is doing with a focus on how all of those plans I did in my DIY soil blocks have progressed, how they look today. Starting with this lettuce. You guys, look at this lettuce tower. This is amazing. This is the first time I'm growing this lettuce right here, which is the Gustav salad lettuce from Baker Creek. And I am absolutely loving the way that it looks. I have not harvested any of this lettuce yet, but it is certainly ready. So I think that we might have some gorgeous salad greens with our dinner tonight. And I love having the green stalks right on my kitchen deck because that means I can just pop outside, grab the outer leaves to prepare for a salad, leaving the inner leaves to continue to grow. This is a cut and come again salad smorgasbord all summer long for me. I've got a little privacy wall built on my deck here, which means that it blocks a lot of the sun, and that way my lettuce continues to grow the entire season. Now I can do a second planting of lettuce if it does start to get too hot and therefore the leaves might start to taste a little bit bitter, but I don't usually have that problem, although this is a little bit of an anomaly. This is the salad greens, and it's just a lovely mix of different lettuces. And as you can see here, I don't have everything quite planted out yet. I still have all of the basils that need to go into the ground. I wanted to get them just a little bit bigger first. So these are good to go. I'm going to get these out this week. And then on my Azure order this month, which just came in, I did order 10 more strawberry plants and then a couple of four parsleys, curly and flat leaf. And then I also got a new thyme because my perennial thyme got taken over by lemon balm this year. So I needed some more thyme. So these are going to get planted this week as well. But other than that, and a few seeds that we're going to be popping in, the garden is good to go. Over here in these two green stalks, this is my green bean. So I have bush green beans in all levels of this green stalk here. I planted 2 per. It looks like we have some holes, so I'll be coming back through here and plugging some of that up. We don't have, for example, any in here, only one here, only one here. And it could just be that they're still starting to sprout, but I do like to have 2 per. And then over here, this is my spinach green stalk, mostly. So I have 3 tiers of spinach, and then the bottom 2 tiers are different Asian greens, which are coming in beautifully. So we'll be harvesting on this in no time at all as well. And in this deck planter here, I've got some comfrey. I have quite a few comfrey plants, and this is just starting to set their lovely purple flowers. This is an incredible medicinal plant, but it's also a really good plant just for your garden because it feeds your soil. So I can chop this down and I can ferment these leaves in some water and then use that as a compost tea over my garden to help add extra nutrients to it. I love comfrey. I'll do another video where I talk about all the different medicinals that I'm growing. And in these 2 green stalks, this is my herb green stalk. You can see I've got some beautiful sage here that's flowering. I went ahead and I put my bunching onions in here this year for the first time. I've got my cilantro that I planted from seed that is just now starting to sprout. This is marjoram that I started from seed this year, and this is tarragon that overwintered. And I do have some basil that I planted down at the bottom here as well. And then I've got some empty pockets. Here's some rosemary that I planted from seed this year as well. And then I've got some empty pockets, and down there I'm going to be putting that parsley that I just got from Azure. And just off my deck, I've got my peas, which we are trying to train to grow up these poles so that they can latch onto this chicken wire that I have back here. It hasn't quite caught on yet though, not all of them, but we're going to have peas here in no time. I also have some rutabagas in here. Looks like, you know, there's some areas that I'm going to have to thin, and it's the first time I'm growing rutabaga, and something's been getting in here and digging at this, so we'll see if that works out for me this year or not. But we're definitely going to be getting peas. These are both sugar and snap peas, and they do really well for me in this bed every year. And I did come up with a solution for my birdies, so I just put a couple of bamboo stakes here and then some chicken netting, and I've cinched that on a bamboo pole here in the middle that I can easily take out and move so that I can get in and tend to the bed. And then there is this opening here as well. But in here, we've got some cucumbers growing. So I've got 2 pickling cucumbers right here. And then I do have a Marketmore cucumber on the end. Now there were 2 of them, and one of them didn't survive the transplant. I think that they just got too big in the house and they just were not happy at all. So I'm going to go ahead and put in another seed. I'm going to pop in 2 seeds and then we'll see what happens. And we'll get them nicely watered in here in just a little bit. I've got a cantaloupe down here on the end, and that was started in the soil block. That's looking really good. It's greened up. It was pretty yellow when I put it in. And then over here, I've got a sugar baby watermelon. No, that's another, sorry, that is another melon. So I've got 2 of the cantaloupes, and then I did put in sugar baby watermelon, but it does not look like those are going to make it. They are pretty sad. It looks like they've had some slug damage on them as well. So let me move my netting because I can do that now. And I'm gonna just pop another seed in there or 2, and they'll grow up this trellis no problem. So I'll put 2 seeds right there. Now these are the sugar baby because I don't really have time to grow any type of a larger melon on here based on the number of growing days I have. Now also in here I do have some cilantro that self-seeded from last year, so a couple of those plants. And then I've got beets, although I didn't get as many beets to sprout as I had expected. I did quite a few beets, but look at all the carrots that we have. I'm super pleased about that. I am gonna have to come in here, I think, and thin a lot of these. Not all of them, but some of them are, you know, clearly too close together. But this should be a very productive bed for me, and you can see it has a cattle panel trellis on the outside or on the back side, so the viney stuff can just grow up and over. And down here at the bottom, I have some hyssop, and then I also have a volunteer cucumber from last year. So that will grow up this front, and I can loop it over. I can loop it over onto the back side as well. So we should get some good cucumbers here this year. And then I've got more beets on this side. They're still, you know, pretty small and just starting to sprout, but definitely a better turnout of the beets on this side of the bed. And then we do have some weeds in here that we'll want to pluck out. And down here I've got my blueberry plants. This one looks like it got chopped or bit off by the dogs. So that one's pretty small. This one is looking okay. These are 3 or 4 years old now. I started out with them in containers. 2 years ago, I moved them down here. They're not exactly happy down here, so we may end up rethinking that. And look at how gorgeous this raspberry bush is looking. We're starting to get some blooms on here. Quite a few in some areas. So we should have lots of raspberries this year. And the blackberries I'm not sure about because I cut down all of the canes this year. And we're not sure if we're going to fruit on first or second year canes, but it looks like we might be fruiting on first year canes. That would be a bonus. And on the other side, you can see this birdie bed over here. We'll take a look at that. Now I did the same with the bamboo and the netting on this bed so Sky can no longer jump into it. She jumped into it and tore up most of my strawberry plants, which is why I just bought more from Azure Standard. So we do have some healthy plants in here that are just starting to set some fruit. But I'll get those other ones planted in here within the next day or two. So this bed will be filled back up again. And across from here, we're gonna go into the garden and take a look. Well, let's stop here first. So this is one of my hibiscus. I have many hibiscus. And you cut back the canes every year. You can see down there that they're cut back. And then new growth just emerges and it grows like crazy. It gets super big with beautiful, massive flowers on it. So I definitely love my hibiscus. And I have all of my little hanging baskets now filled with the petunias that we started from seed. Not quite any flowers yet, but they'll get there. And I have those baskets, or baskets anyway, filled all the way down the length of the garden. So let's go in and take a look. First up, I moved my cosmos into these containers and they're just starting to bloom. There's another one right up here. And that one's getting ready to bloom. Up at the top here, we've got leeks and we've got some Brussels sprouts. I haven't mulched this bed yet, or the other two that are just like it, because I am going to be popping in some seeds in here. So I'm going to grow some, well, I did put in some bean seeds in here, and those are coming up. But down here, I'm going to pop in another squash plant, a summer squash. Now this week I focused on feeding and nurturing the beds. So every bed got a feeding of some compost as well as some granular slow release fertilizer, and then I mulched mostly with straw. I prefer to use cardboard. I used every bit that I had, and then I had to use straw for the remainder. This is the asparagus bed. This asparagus bed has been moved twice, and so it is recovering. You can see that the spears are just super, super thin. And these are 6-year-old crowns. So it just needs to be babied this year. And hopefully we'll get some edible spears next year. But that's what happens when you really shock your asparagus. Now that this bed has been fed and the drip is all fixed and everything is good to go, hopefully he'll be able to store enough energy in his roots to produce some edible spears next year. In this bed, I've planted some green beans, some bush beans here and along this edge as well. These are the dragon tongue bush beans going down here. We've got broccoli in here. Now the broccoli is going to go to seed. It's just too hot for it, but I will still have edible leaves, so edible greens on this plant, which I love. And then I have a couple of pepper plants in here as well. And you can see that I am dealing with a lot of slug and snails. I've been coming out and catching them as best I can, but they're still getting on the plants. I've got a volunteer borage plant there, and I keep coming across volunteer tomato plants, and I'm just gonna let them go and we'll just see what happens with those. Now over here I have more broccoli. Again, it's gonna go to seed, and these leaves are pretty well ravaged, so I'm probably gonna pull those and just put in some more summer squash. So I do have a summer squash plant here as well as there, and I will stake those and I will grow those up. And then I also did poppy pepper plant right there because I had a lot of pepper plants and needed places to put them. And here is my bed of kale, also getting pretty ravaged by snails and slugs. So hopefully this will rebound and they will outlast the slugs and the snails, because I love kale. Now in these beds, there's tomatoes in all but 2 of these beds. And I usually put 2 to 3 tomatoes at the head end. And then as soon as I put that in, I put shredded cardboard down. And that helps with splashback. So these are tomatoes that I grew in my DIY soil blocks, and look at how big they are. These were put in just under 2 weeks ago. They're massive. Those are Chadwick cherries. And then I have a more slicer type tomato up there in the corner. I'll give you a look at that here in just a second. Then we have our collards. Our collards are looking good. And then we've planted some eggplant here as well. So this tomato plant here, which he's not really being helped much by this clip. We'll put that back on when he's more ready for it. I was just trying to make sure that he wasn't laying on the ground, and he's standing up now. But anyway, this is a Golden King of Siberia. It is the 3rd year I've tried to grow this, and it will be my last unless I can get it to produce and I like it, because I haven't even had a tomato off of one of these yet. So we'll see. And then the eggplants that are in here are the Rosita. The tomatoes that I've got in here, look how lovely and tall they are, even though they just went out. Those are the Comstock sauce and slice. First time growing those. I think that I'm going to like those. We'll see. And then we have 3 more collards in there, and then 3 more eggplants as well. I love my eggplant. In this bed, we've got 3 of our Berries Crazy cherry tomatoes. We've got more collards. Those are looking pretty good. We've got 3 eggplants. And we've got 2 artichokes as well. Now, the artichokes got a little burned. I think I did give them a boost of liquid fertilizer, some nitrogen heavy liquid fertilizer when I planted them. And I think I got some on the leaves. I tried not to, but I think I got some on the leaves, and it was a sunny day, and so it burned, but that should bounce back. In this bed, I have 3 Amish paste tomatoes. And then I've got some pepper plants. That's a hot Hungarian wax pepper. And then we've got the Chinese string eggplants in this bed as well. And then 2 more of the artichokes. You'll notice that these are the 2 beds that has the larger space in between, because these artichokes can get a little bit spiky. So I wanted the extra walking room. Down here, I have fennel in this bed. So I've got 3 fennels in here. I've got 3 eggplants in here. On this side, 3 eggplants on this side. This is the Nagasaki long. And 3 Pisano paste tomatoes up at the top end. Those are not my favorite. I think that was the end of my seeds, and I will not be reordering those. They are just small plants and small tomatoes. And in this bed, we have our Brussels sprouts and a little volunteer borage plant from last year as well. So that's going to bring in some happy pollinators. And then we also have some leeks down here on the end. In this bed, I have 3 bread and salt tomato plants, and then a whole bunch of peppers in here. Now, I'm really excited to say that the seeds I saved from the half-hots from the farmer's market last year, which were my absolute favorite hot peppers, they produced. And so I have 3 half-hot pepper plants in here. Most of these are hot peppers. I've got some shishitos in here as well. All of these are hot peppers in here. And then I have 3 tomatillas in this bed and 3 tomatillas in that bed. So in the upper right-hand corner, we have the verde. In the upper left-hand corner, we have the grande. And then in the middle, we have tomatillas that I saved seeds from a couple years ago. I'm not quite sure what variety or if it's going to be a cross, but look how happy that is with all of the blooms on there. And more hot peppers here. And so this part of the garden is completely planted out, fed, mulched, and now is just in a waiting period for production. Here we have the elecampane. Again, this is going to get massive. This is a medicinal plant. We'll talk about him when we talk about my herbal medicine garden. Now we're in the lower part of the garden. I have 3 Kellogg breakfast tomato plants in here, as well as a marigold. I will be putting some basil in here as well. We have the onion that I let go last year, and we're waiting to get some seeds off of him. I've got to do more research because I'm not exactly sure how to collect those or when. And then we have a volunteer borage plant in here as well. In here I have some large sweet bell peppers. These are the lesias. And then I have a zucchini plant down there in the tomato cage because I'll grow him up. Our lemon balm is coming on strong. And we have lemon balm back here. Our oregano in here, and this was our thyme container, and we've got some lemon balm growing in here. So I'm going to dig that out and restart this over in some time. And then I've got rosemary back there. I just planted that this year, and we've got more lemon balm trying to come up in this container as well. So if you are growing lemon balm, especially, or even if you are growing it in a container to try to contain it, just remember you need to deadhead it so it doesn't set seeds everywhere. And just across from that bed, I put my geranium down there on the end in a pot. And then we've got more comfrey, and look at the little bells on that. Isn't that just lovely? They just are so pretty. So we've got 3 comfrey plants in here that again we can use for medicine and or we can use for garden amendments. I've got my mint in here, and that smells really good. It's looking really good. And then we have more sage sharing space with this comfrey plant in here. I've got my bean bed, which I've planted out with some purple blawhides. We really like those. I had a lot of those seeds, so I chose to plant all of those. We've got some holes. I'm going to be plugging those up today. So I did bring out some seeds that I have saved from last year, as well as some from Baker Creek. So these were planted just over a week ago, and I mean, look how big they are already. I've got some lunchbox or baby bells planted in these containers. And everything has been dripped back to the beds, so everything is working beautifully on drip at this point. I've got my cayennes growing in here, and they look fantastic. These are larger pots, and cayennes don't get too big, so they tend to do just fine in containers like this. Over here, I have 3 of my Cherokee purple tomato plants in here with a couple of marigolds, and I will be putting basil in here as well. And then on the other side, I have my sweet ruia bell pepper plants, 3 of those. And then I did have a long white of Palermo summer squash in here, but it died back. So we're going to pop another one in. It's just one of these. We'll put 2 in. Summer squash you can plant now, no problem, even though it's early June. And we're just going to put 2 in for the sake of making sure that we have germination, but we'll only let 1 grow. And you'll notice the cardboard. I love using cardboard as a ground cover. You have absolutely no risk of seeds that way, whereas with the straw, I always end up getting little hay seedlings, but I ran out of cardboard. I always put the cardboard down. I save it all winter and shred it. I have a 16-page cross shredder that can handle cardboard no problem. So I shred it and save it all winter, and then as soon as I plant my tomatoes out, it goes in at the exact same time, so we don't get any splashback on the leaves and introduce disease. Over in this bed, I have 3 German pink slicing tomatoes, as well as some marigolds. I've got my jalapeno peppers here in some pots, and I have sweet orange bell peppers here in front. And then this one looks like it's a hot pepper, which I think it was supposed to be a sweet pepper, but regardless, it's definitely not based on the foliage. And then I have 2 more summer squash in here. Now this is the time of year when the cucumber beetles start to come, so I'm probably going to wrap those cages up with some tulle netting in order to keep them safe. In this bed I have my 2 pineapple tomatoes, and they're just going to grow up those tomato hooks and strings on clips. And then this is mostly just butternut squash in this bed here. And this was all soil blocks as well. And you can see some of it has greened up nicely, and some of it is still a little peaked, which, you know, they got really massive in those soil blocks because I couldn't plant them out. So I'm going to come in here with some liquid fertilizer probably later this afternoon because it is supposed to be a dry day. It rained all day yesterday, so they were kind of flooded with water, and if I would have given them a liquid fertilizer, it wouldn't have done very much. And then I have a random bean growing in here. I'm not sure what kind, but I'm going to leave him, and if it's a pole bean, we'll put a pole in and we'll stake him. And in this bed here, I have my other winter squash, big winter squash, like the candy roaster and the Burgess buttercup and things like that. This is a lot of squash for an 8x4 bed, but not all of it is going to make it, especially with the cucumber beetles. So hopefully at least half of it will. It's going to sprawl out, it's going to be everywhere, and I'll be stepping over it, and that's okay. I absolutely love my winter squash. And then we have our potato bed. So I've hilled these up and I fed them with compost. I put in a granular slow release fertilizer, and then I topped them off with some straw mulch just to keep the sun off of them, but they look beautiful. On this side of the bed, these were the store-bought consumable potatoes that had started sprouting. They were organic from Azure Standard, and I went ahead and just planted them whole. And then there's 2 more rows on this side and then down the middle. And these are seed potatoes also from Azure Standard, which they just tell you that they're seed potatoes. They don't tell you what kind they are. One was purple, one was white. I have no idea the variety, and it's the first time I've grown potatoes in a bed. I usually, well, I've only grown them a couple times, and it's always been in grow bags, so we'll see how this works. We'll see if I like it or not. I have kind of a mental block around digging out a raised bed. We'll see how that goes. But they look fantastic. The ones from the edible bag, They're a little bit smaller, but they are starting to catch up. So I'm just interested to see how this turns out. And outside the garden, I told you I was gonna plant some grass seed. I don't know if you can see that or not, but we definitely have grass starting to come up. I'm still dealing with weeds, but we're making the most of it. So we definitely have grass seedlings. I'm surprised that we have them already because it says it can take up to a month for Kentucky bluegrass to sprout. And that is what I wanted to use because it spreads so nicely with rhizomes. But we have a lot of sprouts out there at this point. I'll show you up at the top. You can see better where it's a little shaded here, but we definitely have grass growing. It's going to be a little challenging with the dogs, you know, to get that going really well. But once we have a little bit of a base, I can section this area off and we can do it in sections. Plus it'll spread. For those of you that said peonies, yep, you're right. Look at how lovely these are. It's just starting to bloom and look so pretty. I don't know what kind of peonies these are, but they are definitely prolific. So these were here at the house when I moved in, but they were up along the fence line, and this house had been vacant for a few years. Everything was overgrown, so I had a gardener come in and mow everything, and they mowed these down. And it wasn't until, I don't know, sometime, I think the second year in the spring, when it was just too wet to mow, that I saw these growing and thought, what are those? And so I let them go, and then eventually I moved them into here, and they've just really taken off. We don't have any blooms yet on our balloon flowers here in the front, but we should soon, and they're just looking gorgeous. My iris is opened. They're not very big, but they're lovely. And we've got our echinacea here in the front of this old carrier air conditioning unit that needs to be removed. And we've got our hollyhock there in the back. And we've got more of the hibiscus here, well, in lots of places. I just love the hibiscus. This one's coming along pretty quickly right here. So this right here is a hibiscus. It's gonna get massive. Got lots of bees in here today buzzing around. And then we have our hanging baskets, and those are all looking lovely with the petunias that I started from seed. And so, yeah, everything is looking great. I start most of the plants that I grow in my garden from seed using a foil pan method for seed starting and then transplanting them into DIY soil blocks, which I have to tell you is an incredibly inexpensive way to start gardening, and it works beautifully. As you can see, my plants are looking incredibly healthy. They're getting big, and they're going to be very, very productive. If you're new here, I live on an urban homestead in a neighborhood on less than half an acre, and I have turned my side yard into a garden to feed myself and my family and my dogs and, you know, extended family and friends as well. We'll do a lot of preserving of this food later in the year, whether that's canning or dehydrating or freeze drying. We're definitely going to make sure that nothing goes to waste. I made my own beds using cedar fence boards, 4x4s, and some screws. It was not expensive. It was not hard. They've held up now for, let's see, my larger beds are now 6 years old, and the smaller beds, I think, are 4 years old. The larger beds, they're going to need to have some patchwork done on them or be replaced here in the next year or two, but they've also been moved a couple of times, so you can't expect them to last forever when you're pushing and pulling on them and emptying them out and refilling them all the time. So if you are interested in starting a backyard garden for more self-sufficiency and to help reduce your overall grocery cost, I am here to try and encourage you that you can do it if I can do it, and I can do it, so you can do it. And it's not that hard or expensive to get started. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll probably see you next week with another garden update. My name is Kelly, you're at A Better Choice Homestead, and I do hope you'll come back and visit again soon.